When you've got a toy line that took off as fast as Transformers did, it's not surprising that you've got a few up-and-coming toy lines that try to, well, let's be honest, completely and totally rip it off in order to capitalize. Sometimes this is entirely justified. It makes sense for the toy line or for the fiction the toy line's based on. And then other times it is just an unabashed rip-off that you can clearly see was done just as a cash-in. But nevertheless, there are many examples, and today I have but a small few of them. So here's 10 toy lines that try to rip off Transformers, and we're going to begin with a toy line that I actually quite like and have gotten quite a few really fun, enjoyable figures from, but there is one instance that we do have to discuss, and that is the Tobot line. Now, this is a toy line out of Korea that's more competing with the Power Ranger market than it is the Transformer, but it kind of goes to both of them. And honestly, they're good. Like, they're really solid toys, they're really big, and there's some designs that are really, really fun. So, and I'm not saying that, like, just because it's a transforming robot line means it's ripping off Transformers. There have been toy lines that did it before Transformers and toy lines that will do it long after Transformers. That's not what I'm saying. In this case, we have to talk about this one in particular. So, if you're not familiar with your mid-2000s Transformers, we knew this toy as Evac from Cybertron. Now, this is 100% the engineering and body shape of Evac. It's been remolded and repainted, of course, so it is somewhat distinct. But on an engineering level, this transforms and functions exactly like Evac did. It's pretty shameless, and it's pretty strange considering Tobot's done so many good, unique designs. It feels really odd that they would just like take this one design from Transformers and use it as their own, as if they were, you know, a shameless knockoff company. But they're not. They make good things, so I genuinely think to myself, why? Why did you bother doing this? But nevertheless, it's a more modern example, and it's a very egregious example considering it looks exactly like a classic Transformer figure. At number 9, we're going to go to something that is technically doing its own thing. It's a matter of timing that we're more concerned about here, and that is the Roadbots. So a Roadbot was basically, a part former. It's not like a full-on transformation. You're left with a whole bunch of leftover car parts that don't really have any use, can't store away in the robot mode, but you do have a transforming vehicle that is designed after a real-world car. This was done shortly after alternators took off. So that is where we are getting a little bit of concern about the legitimacy of this toy line. It brags lights and sounds, and if I recall right, was at a cheaper price point back in the day than the alternators were. So it was presenting itself as this alternative with more features, but what you got was less engineering. To their credit, I heard they were actually decent if you didn't mind having, a pile of scrap car parts left over every time you changed it to robot mode. Never had one myself because, well, I had alternators. I didn't really need these. At number 8, we've got one that is technically in this category as well, but is more like an aesthetic thing more than like legitimately trying to be a transforming toy line. So bear with me. We're including it because it does feel like it knows what it's doing, and that is the Revs from Playmates. The Revs are basically a robot action figure line that comes with a car, and the car can be dismantled in order to form car armor. So it's technically not a transforming robot per se. It is a transforming vehicle. It's the final aesthetic that gets me because you definitely see where they were trying to be a Transformer-alike toy line. It's a technicality, I will admit. But again, it's a different company, not trying to completely rip off Transformers, admittedly, but they're definitely trying to accomplish the same thing. And they're trying to have the same type of toy without being a direct ripoff, because, you know, you kind of get in trouble for that once in a while. But I do think this just comes close enough to make me go, yeah, I see what you were trying to do. I see what you were going for. It doesn't work, but hey, at least you're not a complete knockoff. At number 7, we're getting into more that are definitely Transformer-based. However, there's a few that actually have some justification for this. Let's go to another huge toy line from the 80s, and we'll look at the Ninja Turtles. Their mutations lines were actually pretty brilliant. And now, it's the Ninja Turtles. So mutating is a thing in their fiction, in their toy line, so it absolutely makes sense that they would have little turtles that transform into Ninja Turtles. And in fact, I really like those toys. I kind of want to go back and get a bunch that I had as a kid. And that all made sense. That was all well and good. And then we got into the road-ready mutations. Now we're in the realm of direct ripoff. So, it is the Ninja Turtles, and they're the more gimmicky, like job-based Ninja Turtles, like firefighter, policeman, and all that. And now they just straight up transform into vehicles. Now, some of them actually are thematic. Shredder turns into the module drill. Splinter turns into the party wagon, that kind of thing. And then you've got Leonardo, who transforms into a fire truck they never had. Now, I do like the touch of having the head in the pilot seat. Okay, credit for that. That's kind of cute. And that takes some decent engineering to figure out. But the rest of it, yeah, this is just straight up a transformer in a turtle shell. And yeah, you can kind of get away with it because you mutate. But I don't recall anyone mutating into a car in that cartoon. At number 6, we've got another attempt, and this one is by another huge company. This is Hot Wheels, trying to be something of a robot in disguise, except their version was a little bit different. So the Robo Wheels were essentially pretenders. They were pretender vehicles, if we're going to be technical about it. This robot would hide inside a car shell, and then taking off the shell would basically leave you with a robot on a skateboard. This allowed the Hot Wheel toy to still have the signature requirements of a Hot Wheel. The really smooth rotation on the wheels, like the smooth rolling feature, that die-cast base to the car, all of that could be retained, but we still have a robot in disguise, technically. Now, it can come off the base and just be like this little tiny robot action figure, but this is, again, creating a transforming vehicle and robot toy without technically being a transformer. So you get around it a little bit, but I could easily see where this will be very easily mistaken for some weird transformer line that never took off in the 80s or 90s. They're not that great. They didn't last that long either. Hot Wheels pretty much goes back to sticking to its own thing from there on out. And you know what? I still know Hot Wheel collectors who go nuts over it, so clearly they are doing the right thing. This was not the right thing. Number 5, we're going to get into something more egregious. You want to talk about having no justification and being very blatantly what it is. Let's go into the Marvel Universe, and we will talk Shapeshifters. Shapeshifters was... Okay, so when you get into the idea of shape-shifting, okay, you're getting into superhero semantics at this point, but it is just a name for a transforming toy line featuring Marvel characters. They did Spider-Man, they did X-Men, all under the Shapeshifters umbrella. A few others too. I believe you can get a Thor that turns into like a weird Pegasus thing. It looks like it's a pretty freakish mutation. And all of these were like that. They prioritized the superhero or villain instead of prioritizing what they turned into. So you got left with these super weird, super crude alternate modes and mutant beasts and animals that they turned into, or they would turn into guns, famously. Thank you, Punisher. So it's a bizarre toy line, a super bizarre toy line. Yeah, if you wanted a Marvel action figure that just so happened to have a shape-changing mode, you can do that. Like, okay, that works. But yeah, right down to the word transform right there at the bottom of the box, we can tell what this one was doing. But Marvel is not done, because Shapeshifters was only one attempt. We also need to look at another attempt they did in order to capitalize on Transformers, or at least the transforming toy engineering style. Let's take a look at Megamorphs very briefly here. So rather than this being the hero transforming into something, this was basically a giant mech that came with a tiny little figurine that could pilot it. Here we have the Hulk in the most ridiculous tank I have ever seen in my life. It looks like some kind of weird mobile science station that just happens to have, like a 6-barrel rocket launcher on top. The robot it turns into is a very chunky, blocky, robotic version of the Hulk. Okay, credit where credit's due. That's at least a smoother take. I would argue it doesn't really come out that much better, however. I do think that this is the right direction, but when you have this entire range of things you can do if you decided that the robot is going to be an actual robot and not the Marvel hero, just resembling the character. That lets you get away with a lot more. Why did the Hulk get turned into this super weird techno tank? This looks like something Bruce Banner had in his nightmares and he made it real. But yeah, it's another just really bizarre take. And this, eventually Toy Biz would lose this license, and Marvel would go to Hasbro, and we would get official Transformer Marvel toys. That unfortunately didn't really turn out any better. This concept is like 3 strikes and it's out. And then technically they did it a 4th time with the X-Men Expanse. But let's just put this one to bed, okay? This could be done well, but for some reason it never is. At number 3, we're going to talk about another toy line that does have a right to do shape-changing characters and toys. However, it's a little bit iffy how they went about it. I'm going to go over to Power Rangers now, and we're not going to talk about any Megazord, because there's a lot of Megazords that are just straight up Transformers. No, we're going to talk about what Operation Overdrive did for the American exclusive toys, because this one is a little bit more shameless. Yes, it's very loosely based on the drill vehicle that they had in the show, but you can tell it's not really a drill anymore. The Red Ranger has a drill. It still doesn't look like the drill vehicle because it's so heavily armed. It's obviously a tank, and this one just kind of throws everything out the window. There's a Blue Ranger that's the exact same way. Yeah, this is just them straight up trying to make a Transformer, justifying it with this like super beefy battle armor for the Power Ranger. And it never worked. It never worked. This was largely because this was done by Bandai of America. There's no involvement from the toy designers in Japan. So then we kind of learned that with the Marvel Transformer line. It just doesn't work. You need someone who knows how to really engineer in order to make these things function. Considering that this is a toy they rehash 3 times for the exact same wave of figures, you can tell they didn't really want to try too hard on this one. So this is where I talk about like just being a shameless cash grab to try and be a Transformer when you clearly are not. At number 2, we have another one that is very much a toy line that came out to capitalize on Transformer popularity in literally every way it possibly could. Let's talk about the Dinosaurs. This came out as Dino Zone in Japan, and in Japan it came out, I want to say 1998, right after they got Beast Wars. So Bandai in Japan knew that this was going to be a thing, so they end up creating their own dinosaur-based line with 2 of my favorite things in 90s toys, translucent plastic and chrome. Oh boy. To be fair, I think Dinosaur's chrome holds up a lot better than Transmetal chrome does. So I'll give it credit to that. The joints and engineering does not, because translucent plastic does not like to hold up its tolerances very long. This was ambitious. This was ambitious. These fossil-based beasts, and remember, this came out with a animated show with CGI characters and transformations. All came out roughly a year or two after Beast Wars did. So this I think is pretty much unabashed, like a cash in. This was absolutely Bandai trying to get in on the Beast Wars surge in popularity. What's strange about this is that it meant that Transformers had a competing line of toys out at the same time, right when they were starting to design Beast Wars Neo, which would have had a lot more dinosaurs to it. So it's a weird competing market that ended up getting created. But yeah, quality overall wins out, and from everything I've ever heard, dinosaurs did not hold up too well over time. So that is an unfortunate thing, because they look cool, but they're definitely not an original idea. Now, to cap this off, I've got another one from a toy line that is mostly known for little die-cast cars, but they tried to strike it out on the transforming robot thing themselves, similar to how Hot Wheel arranged it. And this time is going to be Parasites. This is from Matchbox. And again, we have an idea that tries to maintain what they are as Matchbox cars, similar to what Hot Wheels did, while still having a transforming robot element to it. Parasites were basically Pretender style. The shell was the vehicle, and inside you tucked in this little robot that got folded up into it. They are not good. They are not good. Because they were so limited by what they were, they don't really have like proper alt modes themselves outside of the vehicle. Obviously there's next to no articulation to them outside of the hinges that got them into the little crumpled up shape in the first place. And they're just not that good looking. This is kind of what happens when a company that focuses on toy cars tries to do a transforming robot. You get so much priority on the car maintaining its whole thing. You'd really just get this really half-hearted effort to create the robot element of it. So you end up with things that are weird like this. You don't really see companies doing things like this anymore. I think they pretty much just decided, especially after the live-action movies, that yeah, there's really not any approaching Transformers anymore. Better to just stick to your own thing and just, hope for the best. So that is my list. Obviously, there's a lot in here I missed. Obviously, there's plenty of toy lines that tried to be Transformers. I didn't even go into knockoff companies that are just straight up doing Transformer toys. I didn't go to any of the generic companies that you see doing like those old weird Dinobots that used to be in Easter baskets at Walgreens and things like that. There's tons. There's absolutely tons. But these are just 10 that I felt stood out for one reason or another, or at the very least felt like a pretty widespread selection of all the different forms that the knockoffs, or I should say the rip-offs, tried to take. Let me know in the comments below if I missed one in particular. I'm sure this has enough for me to do another one. Or let me know if you discovered one for the first time here. I know some, like Parasites, ended up getting super obscure. Either way, thank you for joining me for another Here's 10. I hope to see you the next time I have 10 things for you to listen to. Until then. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.